Let me hit you with the hard truth. The biggest breakthroughs in your businesses, they're probably not coming from you, sitting alone at your desk, trying to solve everything by yourself. They're going to come when you open up to others, you know, people who've been there, who've done it, who can ask the right questions and offer real world feedback to kind of guide you through whatever you're going through. But here's the catch. Are you brave enough? Are you vulnerable enough to share your challenges, the barriers that you're dealing with and really open up to others, to get real, admit where you're stuck, and let your peers help you cut through what I like to call the overwhelm. And I'll tell you this, stepping into the hot seat with a mastermind group, it completely transformed how I attacked a major problem that I was dealing with. I went from feeling paralyzed and overwhelmed to focused and executing. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how. So in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through, kind of give you a behind the scenes of the virtual hot seat process that helped me get clear and move my business forward a lot faster. You're going to learn how the process works, how clarifying questions can cut through the noise, and how actionable feedback from your peers are going to help you make the right decisions, even when you're feeling like swamped. And as we know all too well, everything's coming to you at once. By the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly how to step into your own virtual hot seat and get the feedback that moves you forward, no matter how stuck you might feel. I'm Scott Joseph. I'm your host, and I've spent decades building successful businesses. J&O Marketing, it started as a direct mail company, and today we have transformed into a MarTech leader. My 3 dealerships, when I bought them, they were already established. But since we acquired them, they have grown over 1,000% in value. And I don't tell you this to impress you, but I am trying to impress upon you that with all that experience, I still needed a lot of help. And none of that past experience was helping me with the new challenge, that I was facing. So when it came time to launch, a new business, I hit a wall. And bottom line is I hadn't launched a business from the ground up in 30 years. And I'd already made this public commitment. I announced the new company. And now, I'm feeling this internal pressure, like my reputation was on the line. It had to succeed. I was dealing with a lot, too many decisions. And for me, everything felt like a top priority. People who know me, they jokingly say, everything's priority number 1 with Scott, right? So, every day I just kept adding to my list of tasks, but I wasn't making the progress I needed. I felt like I was just kind of spinning my wheels. And that's when I decided to step into, the virtual hot seat with a mastermind group. I needed clarity. And more important, I just needed, a focused action plan. Today, I'm going to walk you through the virtual hot seat process step by step, and this is based on my own experience. So by the end of this, you're going to see, how the hot seat helped me focus on one key challenge and really narrow down my biggest issue. You're going to see the clarifying questions the group asked that really helped me get to the heart of my stress and the concern I had. And then finally, the actionable feedback and the solutions that they provided that helped me move forward with confidence and focus. So let me take you real quick to that moment. I had the experience, I had the vision, but launching a new business from scratch, it felt, like a completely different challenge. As I mentioned earlier, it'd been 30 years since I started a business from the ground up. And I'm starting to feel like, I had too many things on my plate, that they all had to get done at one time. I had so many decisions to make. Should I focus on building the brand first, or should I dive into setting up, the systems and the tools for the business? How would I handle the marketing and the operations simultaneously? I just felt like there was too much to do, and none of it seemed like the right starting point. And I'm the type of guy who believes starting, is more important than waiting until everything's perfect. Still believe that, I advise it for anybody starting their end, all entrepreneurs, today. But I wanted to launch this right. And I wanted to impress everybody right out of the gate. Bottom line, I was stuck in that familiar feeling of analysis paralysis. So I decided to take the leap, stepped right into this virtual hot seat. So the first thing I had to do is I had to identify my primary challenge. I couldn't lay out, all my issues to everybody. I had to focus on the one thing that was really holding me back from moving forward. So I shared with the group that, I was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of decisions that I had to make. I was juggling too many things, at once. I couldn't figure out where to start. I wasn't even sure which part of the business to prioritize first. Was it the systems, the marketing, the team building? And that's when I'll never forget this. The group asked a pivotal question. What's the one thing that, if solved, would make everything easier? That question completely shifted my mindset. So instead of focusing on all the tasks that seem equally important, I zoomed out and I realized that if I didn't get the right systems in place, nothing else was going to matter. I needed the right tools, whether it was like a CRM, right, to track client relationships, to be able to automate the processes before I could focus on scaling. After I pinpointed the main challenge, the group didn't just stop there. They started digging deeper. They started asking me clarifying questions that helped me really get to the heart of what was causing my stress. One member asked, I'll never forget it, what's your biggest fear about getting these systems in place? And I'm thinking, fear, is it really the work, or is it the fear of making the wrong choice on the tools? And that question was a game changer because it helped me realize that the fear of choosing the wrong tools, what was really holding me back more than the work itself. I wasn't afraid of the implementation. I was afraid of making the wrong decision, which made me hesitate and delay. The fear of being stuck in the wrong system made me avoid choosing anything altogether. So all my other companies, they're rolling, right? And in my mind, I've always thought I can afford to take chances and make the wrong call with them. I make decisions quick. But this is a startup. It didn't have the same cash flow. And I didn't want to make the wrong call and build it on a faulty foundation. Another member asked, how do you want to feel when this process is working? When the systems are up and running? What's your ideal vision for the business in the next 30 days? Now, it's a simple question, and that helped me envision success. And I realized that once the systems were set up, I could finally focus on growing the business and developing the team without being buried in operational details. I could put all my focus on bringing value to my clients. And that's really what this business was about. Once we understood the core of the issue, that's when the group started offering actionable feedback. One member suggested, start with setting up the CRM so you can automate client communications. That's the foundation. Once that's in place, everything else will be easier to manage. Another member, recommended using a CRM that I wasn't even familiar with, but that was easy to use and it had a lot of capabilities and it made it easier to handle other things like marketing automation. The CRM that worked for all my other businesses wasn't going to work for this startup. Another member said, break this into phases. Phase one could be getting the system set up. Phase two is the marketing and the client acquisition. Don't try to do everything at once. Get the foundation right first. These suggestions, they cut through the overwhelm. So instead of thinking about everything that needed to be done, I now had a clear roadmap, to focus on one phase at a time. Have you ever felt like you're working harder than ever, but your business just isn't moving forward the way you expected? Maybe you're stuck at a plateau. You're battling setbacks, which they can come frequently, right? Maybe you're dealing with a team that can't seem to align behind your vision. We've all been there. Every day feels like another battle, and despite all your effort, you're just not seeing the growth you know is possible. Here's your chance to change that. Me Plus Ultra Mastermind Group virtual sessions are where high-level entrepreneurs like you, they come together and they solve real problems and generate groundbreaking solutions. So you're going to get an exclusive inside look behind the scenes at how the top minds in businesses tackle their toughest challenges. It's the kind of collaboration that you can't get anywhere else. And it's designed to spark the kind of breakthroughs that you've been craving. But here's the best part. The first 3 people that visit meplusultra.com/hot seat will get free access to one of these mastermind hot seat sessions. I want you to experience the power of real-time problem solving and collaboration firsthand. But don't wait. These spots are limited, and I promise you they're going to fill up fast. Visit meplusultra.com/hot seat and do it now to claim your spot and see how this exclusive session can help you break through the barriers that are holding, your business back. But the real value, it came from the accountability after the session. The group didn't just let me walk away with advice. They checked in. I was given clear tasks to implement, like setting up the CRM and the systems, the processes, and automating all those things. The group, they followed up with me regularly. They wanted to make sure I was staying on track, executing the plan. They held me accountable for implementing the tools that we discussed, and that kept me moving forward. By the end of the virtual hot seat session, I had clarity. I knew exactly what needed to be done first. I was no longer paralyzed by this overwhelm. I was focused on setting up the right systems, automating key processes, and moving forward with the actual growth of my business. What could have taken me months of trial and error, I accomplished in weeks. The clarifying questions helped me pinpoint the true issue, and the actionable feedback and the insights, they gave me the roadmap to overcome the obstacles and launch my business quickly and efficiently. Now, some of you might be asking, how can a guy who's had success not know all this already? I knew it, but the solutions and the processes that I was familiar with in my other businesses, they weren't going to work for a startup for a lot of reasons. Probably number one is like cost. Plus, in the beginning, I didn't have a team of people. It was all on me. I had to do the heavy lifting, right? So the group saved me a small fortune in time, effort, and money because they gave me suggestions as to which companies to reach out to, companies that work best for my exact situation at the time. And see, many of them had already gone through the challenges that I was facing. The challenges I was facing today, they're not the same barriers that I had faced over 30 years ago in my last startup. I needed their insights and help. While I was in the hot seat, the group, they're not just listening passively. Every member benefits from the hot seat process, even when they're not the one in the spotlight. And here's why I say that. For one, the group's clarifying questions and feedback, they offer fresh perspectives. These help everyone see the challenge through a new lens. Members are bringing their own experiences. They're offering their own valuable insights on how they've overcome similar hurdles in their businesses. And this cross-industry learning helps everyone think more creatively, about their own challenges. And they discover solutions that they really may not have ever considered before. So for instance, for example, a member's question or insight about streamlining processes in their industry, a lot of times that might spark an idea about how to tackle inefficiencies in my own business or maybe yours. These different angles and approaches, that's what fuels innovation, not just for the hot seat participant, but for the entire group. Then everyone learns from everyone's struggles. As the group works through, say, my challenge, I'm the one in the hot seat at the time, right? They're not just listening to my problems. They're learning from my mistakes too. They get to see how that same feedback and the solutions can potentially apply to their own businesses, which accelerates their growth. The beauty of the hot seat is not just about solving one person's problem. The group walks away with lessons they can immediately apply to their own situations. The hot seat becomes, a shared learning experience where we collectively get better, not not just individually. If you're going in a hot seat, you want to walk away with actionable insights. And when members start offering solutions, it's not just about helping the person in the hot seat. Everyone's learning new tools and strategies and frameworks that they can apply to their own businesses too. Even if the solutions don't perfectly fit, everyone's specific challenge, a lot of times the feedback sparks new ideas or strategies that they can adapt. Everyone gets better because each suggestion, whether it's about systems or marketing or maybe team building, it provides an opportunity to expand their toolkit. Over time, this leads to a continuous cycle of improvement, not just for the person in the hot seat, but for the entire group. One of the things that I liked most was, what I learned from all the diverse ideas and the conflicts. Sometimes the solutions that you get from everyone, they conflict, or they even might, seem impractical at first. But this is where the magic happens. These mismatch ideas, they force the group to dig deeper, and it triggers, new insights or innovative solutions. When members hear multiple ideas or solutions that don't necessarily fit the issue at hand, it sparks creativity and it makes them think differently about their own challenges. And most of the time, the contrasting perspectives, that's where it leads to breakthroughs that would have never happened if everyone just, agreed on the same approach. And finally, make sure your group brings cross-industry innovation. One of the biggest takeaways is how insights from one industry, often lead to breakthroughs in another. What works in retail, that can transform a tech startup's customer acquisition process, or a strategy from the nonprofit sector. That can provide a lot of fresh ideas for, say, a profit business. When diverse minds and industries come together, ideas start to transcend their original context, and it makes every hot seat session a learning laboratory for everybody. Remember this: what may be common or a best practice in one industry can be a huge breakthrough in another. So this is what I want you to walk away from today's episode with. First thing, if you're going to go into a hot seat, you got to focus on one challenge. Choose one key issue to tackle. The one thing that, if solved, would make everything else easier. Then let's talk about clarifying questions, right? Get a group of peers who you respect and who have been there and done that. And when they ask deep, focused questions, they're going to help get to the heart of the issue and uncover any mental blocks or fears that you might have. You got to answer them honestly. And then step 3, you want actionable solutions, right? Based on your honest answers to your problem. The group offers specific solutions and actionable feedback, that can help or that you can implement, I say, immediately. This is when your answers to their clarifying questions, they've got to be brutally honest. You think with my past success, I wanted to go into a group and say, yeah, I felt overwhelmed. And then finally, you got to have accountability and follow-up. Make sure you can count on your group to follow up, so you can stay on track and execute the solutions that were recommended. This helps you stay focused and accountable. So here's your challenge. Step into a virtual hot seat, the next time you feel swamped, or your business is plateaued, or you have a huge opportunity and you want to make sure you know how to handle it the best way. Topics are endless. Don't shy away from getting focused feedback that will push you to simplify and take the right action. If you're tired of feeling paralysis from analysis, and you're overwhelmed in your business, the Me Plus Ultra Mastermind group, it is what you need. This isn't just another group of entrepreneurs. It's an exclusive community. Apply only. all right, where top business leaders, they help each other break through obstacles, share strategies, they unlock new opportunities. You'll not only gain actionable insights, but also you're going to build relationships that are going to help support your growth for years to come. I want you to visit meplusultra.com/hot seat right now and claim a free access pass. So I want you to sit in on one of our powerful hot seat sessions. This is your chance to see firsthand how this process works and how it helps business leaders and their companies unlock new levels of success, the type of success we all strive for. Cheers, everyone.